There exists a language older than words, more ancient than symbols, yet more precise than mathematics. It speaks through the petals of a flower arranging themselves in perfect spirals, through the hexagonal chambers of a honeycomb, through the golden ratio hidden in your own face. This language has been whispered in sacred temples, encoded in cathedral windows, and carved into stones that predate written history. Those who understood it claimed they could touch the mind of the divine, reshape reality, and unlock the doors between worlds. Sacred geometry is the blueprint of existence itself. Every curve, every angle, every proportion you encounter is a letter in this cosmic alphabet. The ancients didn't merely observe these patterns, they understood them as the very thoughts of creation made visible. When Pythagoras declared that all is number, he wasn't speaking metaphorically. He had glimpsed something so fundamental that modern quantum physics is only now beginning to verify. Reality emerges from geometric relationships, from the dance of proportion and symmetry that underlies all manifestation. Consider the simple act of drawing a circle with a compass. That single motion contains within it the entirety of creation's mystery. The point at the center represents unity, the source, the unmoved mover. The circumference represents manifestation, multiplicity, the created world, and the radius, that invisible line connecting center to edge. That is consciousness itself, the bridge between the one and the many, between spirit and matter. Every spiritual tradition that possessed true knowledge encoded this understanding in their most sacred symbols. The Hindu mandala, the Celtic cross, the Kabbalistic tree of life, the Islamic geometric patterns that seem to breathe with infinite complexity, all are speaking the same primordial language. Yet this knowledge has been systematically obscured, relegated to mere decoration or dismissed as primitive superstition. Why? Because those who truly understand sacred geometry understand the mechanics of creation itself. They understand that by working with these patterns, one doesn't merely create art. One participates in the ongoing act of cosmic creation. Today, you will learn to see with the eyes of the initiated, to recognize the geometric keys that unlock reality's deepest mysteries. The knowledge of sacred geometry stretches back to the very dawn of human consciousness. Before there were words for the divine, there were circles drawn in sand, spirals carved in stone, triangles aligned with stars. The megalithic builders who erected Stonehenge, Newgrange, and Göbekli Tepe understood something we have forgotten: that certain shapes and proportions serve as conduits between dimensions, as tuning forks for cosmic frequencies. In ancient Egypt, the priesthood guarded geometric knowledge as their most precious secret. The Great Pyramid isn't merely an architectural marvel, it's a geometric battery, a crystallized prayer in stone. Its proportions encode the relationship between earth and sky, between pi and phi, between the human heartbeat and the pulse of the cosmos. Schwaller de Lubitsch spent decades measuring the Temple of Luxor and discovered that its layout mirrors the human body in perfect proportion, not symbolically but literally, down to the location of specific organs and energy centers. The Egyptians understood that the human form itself is a geometric theorem, a living temple built according to universal principles. The Greek mysteries took this understanding and refined it into a complete philosophy. When initiates entered the Eleusinian mysteries, or studied in Pythagorean communities, they weren't learning abstract mathematics. They were being shown how number and shape give birth to reality. The Pythagoreans discovered that musical harmony emerges from simple geometric ratios. The octave from 2 to 1, the perfect fifth from 3 to 2. They realized that if sound follows geometric law, then perhaps all of creation is a vast symphony of proportions, a cosmic music made visible through form. Plato encoded this wisdom in his theory of ideal forms, teaching that behind every imperfect physical shape lies a perfect geometric archetype existing in a realm beyond space and time. His famous solids, the tetrahedron, cube, octahedron, icosahedron, and dodecahedron, weren't merely interesting mathematical objects. They were understood as the building blocks of the elements themselves, the geometric DNA of physical reality. Fire was the sharp tetrahedron, earth the stable cube, air the octahedron, water the flowing icosahedron, and the dodecahedron. That was reserved for the cosmos itself, the shape that encompasses all others. The medieval Islamic world elevated geometric art to heights never seen before or since. In the Alhambra, in the mosques of Isfahan, in countless madrasas and palaces, Islamic artists created patterns of such breathtaking complexity that they seemed to pulse with life. These weren't mere decorations. They were contemplative tools, visual prayers, geometric codes that trained the eye and mind to perceive the infinite within the finite. The prohibition against representational art pushed Islamic culture to explore the deepest possibilities of pure pattern, and in doing so, they discovered geometric relationships that wouldn't be formally understood by Western mathematics for centuries. But perhaps nowhere is the power of sacred geometry more evident than in the Gothic cathedrals of Europe. These structures aren't buildings so much as frozen music, three-dimensional mandalas designed to transform consciousness. The master builders who created Chartres, Notre Dame, and Salisbury Cathedral were initiates of secret guilds that preserved geometric knowledge from antiquity. They understood that certain proportions and patterns could induce specific states of consciousness. The rose windows aren't random designs, but precise geometric meditations on the nature of divine light. The labyrinths built into cathedral floors aren't games, but initiation tools, geometric journeys that mirror the soul's path to enlightenment. This knowledge was considered so powerful, so potentially dangerous in the wrong hands, that it was transmitted only through symbols, encoded in art and architecture where those with eyes to see could discover it for themselves. The Renaissance artists like Leonardo da Vinci and Albrecht Dürer weren't just creating beautiful works. They were encoding geometric principles that revealed the hidden structure of reality. Leonardo's Vitruvian Man isn't merely a study of human proportions. It's a geometric proof that the human being is a microcosm, containing within its form the same ratios and relationships that govern the cosmos. At the heart of sacred geometry lies a single astonishing principle: that all of creation emerges from unity through a process of division and multiplication that follows precise geometric laws. This process begins with the vesica piscis, the shape created when two circles of equal size overlap, with each circle's center on the circumference of the other. This simple form, looking like an almond or an eye, contains within it the square root of 3, the proportions of the equilateral triangle, and the ratio that generates the entire spectrum of musical tones. From the vesica piscis emerges the flower of life, that mesmerizing pattern of overlapping circles that has been found carved in temples from Egypt to China to India. This isn't coincidence or cultural exchange, it's independent discovery of the same fundamental truth. The flower of life contains within its seemingly simple pattern the blueprints for every possible form in three-dimensional space. It encodes the Platonic solids, the golden ratio, and the geometric matrices that underlie everything from DNA molecules to galaxy formations. But sacred geometry goes deeper than static forms. It reveals the dynamic processes through which creation unfolds. The golden spiral, derived from the golden ratio of approximately 1.618, appears everywhere in nature, in nautilus shells, in the arrangement of seeds in a sunflower, in the spiral of galaxies, in the proportions of the human body. This isn't random. The golden ratio represents the most efficient way for nature to pack information, to grow without losing proportion, to maintain harmony while expanding into infinity. Consider how a plant grows. Each new leaf emerges at an angle of approximately 137.5 degrees from the previous one, the golden angle. This ensures that each leaf receives maximum sunlight without shadowing the others. The plant doesn't calculate this, it embodies it. The geometric principle is written into its very DNA, into the fundamental instructions that guide its growth. This same principle governs how branches split from trees, how rivers branch into tributaries, how blood vessels branch through your body, how neurons branch in your brain. The hexagon holds special significance in sacred geometry because it represents perfect efficiency. The maximum area with the minimum perimeter, the reason bees instinctively build hexagonal cells. But the hexagon also contains within it the six-pointed star. the union of ascending and descending triangles that represents the marriage of opposites, the integration of spirit and matter, the above and below united in perfect symmetry. This symbol appears independently in Hindu yantras, Jewish mysticism, and alchemical diagrams because it represents a universal truth about the structure of reality. Modern science has vindicated what the ancients knew intuitively. Cymatics, the study of visible sound, reveals that specific frequencies create specific geometric patterns in sand, water, or other media. The patterns that emerge are the same ones we find in sacred art across all cultures: mandalas, stars, flowers, crystalline forms. Sound literally creates sacred geometry, suggesting that perhaps the ancient creation myths that speak of the universe being sung or spoken into existence contain more truth than metaphor. Quantum physics has revealed that at the smallest scales, particles don't exist as solid objects, but as probability waves that collapse into specific states when observed. These probability waves follow geometric patterns. The electron orbitals around an atom aren't random clouds but specific geometric shapes, spheres, dumbbells, toruses, that determine how atoms bond and interact. Chemistry is geometry. Matter is geometry. At the most fundamental level, physical reality is the manifestation of geometric relationships. Even consciousness itself appears to follow geometric principles. The microtubules in neurons, which some researchers believe are the quantum foundations of consciousness, are arranged in precise geometric lattices. The brain's neural networks follow fractal patterns, self-similar at every scale. The electromagnetic fields generated by the heart and brain create toroidal patterns, donut-shaped fields that fold in on themselves in endless cycles, the same pattern we see in magnetic fields, in galaxies, in the proposed shape of the universe itself. But here's where sacred geometry transcends mere observation and becomes practical technology. By understanding these patterns, we can work with them consciously. This isn't New Age fantasy, but ancient science rediscovered. When we meditate on geometric forms, when we create or surround ourselves with sacred patterns, we literally tune our consciousness to universal harmonies. The effect is measurable. Studies have shown that exposure to certain geometric patterns can alter brainwave states, reduce stress, enhance creativity, and even accelerate healing. The secret that the ancients understood and we have forgotten is that sacred geometry isn't something we observe. It's something we embody. We are geometric beings living in a geometric universe, and by aligning ourselves with these fundamental patterns, we align ourselves with the creative forces of existence itself. Every spiritual tradition that possessed real power understood this. The Hindu and Buddhist mandalas aren't just pretty pictures, but geometric machines for consciousness transformation. The Islamic geometric patterns aren't just decoration, but visual mathematics that trains the mind to perceive infinity. The labyrinths of Gothic cathedrals aren't just symbolic journeys, but geometric technologies that alter consciousness through movement and pattern. The power of sacred geometry lies in its ability to serve as a bridge between the visible and invisible worlds. When we work with these patterns consciously, we're not just creating art or studying mathematics. We're participating in the fundamental processes through which reality creates and recreates itself. The Renaissance magicians understood this. John Dee's hieroglyphic monad wasn't just a symbol, but a geometric key to the universe. The alchemical diagrams of Robert Fludd weren't illustrations, but geometric formulas for transformation. Even Isaac Newton spent more time studying sacred geometry and alchemy than physics, understanding that the laws governing matter were reflections of deeper geometric principles. The suppression of this knowledge wasn't accidental. Those who understand sacred geometry understand that reality is malleable, that consciousness and geometry are intimately linked, that by changing the geometric patterns in our environment and awareness, we can literally reshape our experience of reality. This is why sacred sites around the world were built according to geometric principles. They're not monuments, but instruments, geometric devices that create specific effects on consciousness. Stonehenge isn't just an ancient calendar, but a geometric amplifier that aligns human consciousness with cosmic cycles. The pyramids of Giza aren't tombs, but geometric resonators that create specific electromagnetic effects we're only beginning to understand. The Gothic cathedrals aren't just buildings, but geometric chambers that use proportion, light, and sound to induce transcendent states. These structures work whether you believe in them or not, whether you understand their principles or not, because they're based on universal laws that transcend belief. Now we come to the practical application, the reason all of this matters beyond intellectual curiosity. Sacred geometry isn't meant to be passively observed, but actively engaged. Here's a simple but profound practice that will begin to attune your consciousness to geometric principles, opening doorways of perception that have been closed by modern life's chaos and distraction. Find a quiet space where you won't be disturbed for at least 20 minutes. Sit comfortably with your spine straight but not rigid. You'll need a piece of paper and something to draw with, preferably a compass and straight edge, but even a circular object to trace and a ruler will work. Begin by drawing a circle. As you draw, understand that you're not just making a mark on paper, but participating in the first act of creation, the emergence of form from formlessness. The circle represents unity, wholeness, the infinite potential before division. Spend a moment contemplating this circle, letting your breathing slow and deepen. Now, keeping your compass at the same width, place its point anywhere on the circumference of your first circle and draw a second circle of the same size. You've created the Vesica Piscis, the womb of creation, the geometric relationship from which all other forms emerge. Notice the almond shape where the circles overlap. This is the portal, the doorway between dimensions. Continue this process, placing your compass point where circles intersect and drawing more circles of the same size. Soon you'll see the flower of life pattern emerging. Don't rush. Let each circle be a meditation, each line a conscious act. You're not just drawing, you're participating in the same geometric process through which galaxies form, cells divide, and consciousness expands. As you create this pattern, something remarkable happens. Your analytical mind, accustomed to linear thinking, begins to quiet. Your intuitive awareness, usually drowned out by mental chatter, begins to awaken. You're entraining your consciousness to a universal rhythm, aligning your awareness with the fundamental patterns that underlie all existence. Once you've completed your flower of life, 7 circles is traditional for beginners. Sit back and gaze at what you've created. Don't analyze it, just observe. Let your eyes move naturally over the pattern, noticing how different forms emerge and dissolve. Triangles, hexagons, stars. This isn't random. Your consciousness is recognizing the geometric archetypes that exist within your own deep structure. Practice this exercise daily for 1 week, and you'll begin to notice something extraordinary. You'll start seeing sacred geometry everywhere, in the pattern of light on water, in the arrangement of leaves on a stem, in the architecture of your own thoughts. More importantly, you'll begin to feel a sense of alignment, as if you're tuning into a frequency that was always there, but which you couldn't perceive before. This is just the beginning. As you deepen your practice, you can work with more complex patterns, 3-dimensional forms, moving geometries. You can use sacred geometry in meditation, in creative work, in problem solving. Each geometric form carries specific qualities: the triangle for transformation, the square for stability, the pentagon for life force, the hexagon for harmony. By consciously working with these forms, you begin to embody their qualities. The obstacles you'll encounter are predictable. The rational mind will dismiss this as meaningless doodling. The ego will grow impatient, wanting immediate results. The pressures of daily life will try to convince you that you don't have time for such practices. These are the same forces that have kept humanity separated from this knowledge for centuries. Push through them. The reward isn't just intellectual understanding, but a fundamental shift in how you perceive and interact with reality. Sacred geometry reveals the deepest truth of existence, that there is an underlying order to what appears chaotic, an elegant simplicity beneath apparent complexity, a unity connecting all diversity. This isn't philosophy or belief, but observable, experiential fact. When you align yourself with these geometric principles, you align yourself with the creative forces of the universe itself. We live in a time when this knowledge is re-emerging, when the artificial barriers between science and spirituality are dissolving, when ancient wisdom and modern discovery are converging on the same truths. Sacred geometry stands at this intersection, equally at home in a physics laboratory and a meditation hall, in a computer algorithm and a cathedral window. The implications are staggering. If reality emerges from geometric relationships, if consciousness follows geometric patterns, if matter and energy organize according to geometric principles, then by understanding and working with sacred geometry, we're not just studying abstract patterns, we're learning the language of creation itself. We are discovering that we are not separate from the universe, but geometric expressions of it, temporary arrangements of eternal patterns, conscious focal points, where the infinite experiences itself as finite. Every tradition that preserved this knowledge did so because they understood its power. The pyramid builders, the cathedral masons, the mandala painters, the Islamic geometers. They weren't creating art for art's sake. They were encoding instructions, leaving roadmaps, creating tools for consciousness that would survive the rise and fall of civilizations. Their message, encoded in stone and symbol, is simple but profound. Remember who you are. You are not random biological accident, but geometric inevitability. You are not separate from the cosmic order, but an expression of it. You are sacred geometry made conscious, the universe looking at itself through geometric eyes. The circle you draw is the same circle that defines planets' orbits and atoms' boundaries. The spiral you trace is the same spiral found in galaxies and DNA. The patterns you create with compass and straight edge are the same patterns that guide crystal formation and cell division. There is one geometry, one set of principles, one universal language that speaks through all forms at all scales. When you understand this, when you truly embody this understanding, the imaginary boundaries between self and cosmos dissolve. You realize that you're not studying sacred geometry. You are sacred geometry, temporarily arranged in human form, discovering itself through itself. This is the ultimate secret, the final revelation. Sacred geometry isn't about shapes and patterns, but about recognition. Recognizing the divine order within apparent chaos, recognizing the unity within multiplicity, recognizing yourself as both creator and creation, both the compass and the circle, both the finite form and the infinite principle it expresses. The ancients encoded this knowledge in symbol and stone, not because they wanted to hide it, but because they wanted to preserve it for those ready to receive it. If these words resonate, if these patterns call to you, then perhaps you are ready. The door is open. The geometry is eternal. The only question is, will you step through the Vesica Piscis into a larger understanding of what you are?